What's up, draft fans? I'm Russell Brown. This is Cover One, the draft podcast. With me, CP Christian Page and Zach Hicks. We're doing a little video podcast for everybody on our Cover One YouTube page. CP, my man, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to finally been doing this. I know y'all have done it a few times, and I've been the guy holding y'all down. But no, it's good to be doing this, and I'm happy it's Friday. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm glad it's Friday as well. Zach, my man, how we doing?
I'm worn out, man. It's been a long week, very long week. The Carson Wentz trade definitely made my week a lot busier. So I think I've done like 5 radio shows now at this point, like 4 or 5 podcasts, like 4 live shows. Like, I am tired, and I'm ready just to drink and shit on your entire big board. I'm excited for it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope you do. And we will get to the big board. Of course, as you guys can see on the ticker, you can find us on Twitter at RussNFLDraft, @_Christian Page, @ZachHicks2. And yeah, we're going to put up my big board here in a minute. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go through player by player, maybe not every single player, but we'll get through most of it, and we'll do some Q&A. We've already got some coming in.
I love Ron. Dude, Ron's in every single thing. I love Ron. He's like my favorite subscriber to the channel.
Ron's the man. So that's his question. We will get that up first. But let's just jump into the big board, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, I mean, first player, obviously, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, do I have to really go into detail on this one?
Yeah, well, you're nice now, based on this week of some reports going around that some teams are like, I say some teams, there's some reports going around where like maybe half the league has Zach Wilson ahead of Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, it's officially draft season. Come on.
Dude, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Don't overthink this. And this is what stemmed this whole thing for me today, because I listen to sports radio all over the country. I don't just listen here in Detroit. I listen to New York. I listen to Chicago. I listen everywhere. And I'm not going to say the city. I'm not going to say the station or the guys or the people that did the show. But I will say this. They had a conversation today on a show I listened to, and they talked about Trevor Lawrence compared to Mac Jones. And the guy was saying, like, Mac Jones can throw the ball farther than Trevor Lawrence, and that some of the things that he can do is better because Mac Jones played in this offense, and he matched the production of Tua, and it was like all of these things. And it's like, okay, I get what you're saying. But Mac Jones played behind the best offensive line in football, maybe the best offensive line I've ever seen. He's got the last 2 years, it's going to be 3 first-round receivers, Najee Harris, who could be a first-round running back. I mean, like, I don't think I need to really go into detail on this. Trevor Lawrence played at Clemson, sure, but outside of Jackson Carman, there's not an offensive lineman on that team that's probably getting drafted right now. He had Cornell Powell and Amari Rodgers on his wide receiver group, which is good, but they're not Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith. I mean, come on, be real. Travis Etienne, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You're overthinking it, and that's what this all stems to. It's just don't overthink this. Like, you don't, like Zach said, he's going to shit on my board, and that's fine. We're not going to agree on everything. And like right now, you said you have 11 first-round grades. I'm at 15. It's probably going to cap off here at 16, 17 at most. And it's just one of those years. And Trevor Lawrence, for me, though, is the guy that it's just a clear-cut top player in the draft, a franchise quarterback. Teams, we saw it this year. Teams tank so they can get him, and the Jets are stupid enough to not do it right? So, like, to me, just Trevor Lawrence is somebody like I haven't seen play quarterback at that level since Andrew Luck. Am I wrong for thinking that?
No, I think you're fine with that. Honestly, I don't know how people have Zach Wilson above him when Derek Klassen on Twitter the other day ruined my entire opinion of. Did you guys see what he said the other day on Twitter? Derek Klassen, do you know?
No, I did not see it.
He called.
Yeah.
What was it? He called Zach Wilson Kids Bop Jim McMahon, and I officially can't.
I did see that. See that.
Now Zach Wilson is undraftable to me because he's Kids Bop Jim McMahon. Like, my comparison I thought was funny when I called him Kyler Murray and Johnny Manziel's body, but I think Derek Klassen just kind of won with that. Like, now Zach Wilson's undraftable to me. It's like worst quarterback in the draft. Like, Kids Bop Jim McMahon. is the best comparison I've ever heard for anybody. It's amazing.
I did see a thing from Athlon Sports. Somebody, I think it was Nate Tice. He posted it in regards to the preseason rankings at quarterbacks, and Zach Wilson was 50.
Wait, 50 overall or 50th quarterback?
No, 50th quarterback.
50th quarterback. So like 900th overall. Yeah, so crazy. Got some more questions coming in. So I'll try to rip through a couple more here on the big board. 2, Penei Sewell. 3, Micah Parsons. 4, Justin Fields. And then 5, Jamar Chase. I made this graphic, by the way. I absolutely love it. I love the graphics that I've been able to make for my draft guide, which you guys will get probably, I'm shooting for the first or second week of April. I'd like to try to get at the end of March, but time is a thing, and I don't know if that's going to happen. But that being said, any issues here from 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Parsons, how do you grade kind of the off-field stuff?
That's the thing, man. That's the thing. Like, me and CP have talked about this a lot. Like, I can't justify the off the field stuff, right? Like, I don't get an opportunity to talk to every single person. I don't have all these inside sources. So like, is it media speculation? Is it legit? It's probably legit, right? Like, the stuff is probably legit, but like, do I know all
typically where there's smoke, there's fire is what I always like to say with that stuff. But who knows what to the extent it really is, like you're saying there.
Yeah, right. So it's just one of those things. I'm just like, man, you like, and that's another thing. We talk about Trevor Lawrence, the Mac Jones thing. Don't overthink that. Micah Parsons at linebacker, don't overthink it. He is so good when he's on the football field. Like, he is always around the football. Everywhere he's at, in the box, the way he scrapes, the range, everything that he brings, he's there. And then in coverage, he's also there. I mean, sure, there's times he's getting fullbacks out of the backfield, but he's wrecking those fullbacks. He's in the hip pocket of tight ends. So, like, to me, he's a player you can rush off the edge. You put him in the box. You need that playmaker in your front seven. That's your guy. And at 6'2", 245, I think he's fantastic. I still like Fields at 4. I know some people are kind of getting off the wagon here. I wanted to ask CP this actually, because we've talked about him in our texts and chats and stuff. And we've talked about his processing and some of those things. Are you at all concerned with him being like a top 10 player on people's board? Because I'm seeing stuff now like Todd McShay's got him at like 14 or 15 now, where it felt like a few weeks ago he was number 2 or number 3. So are these like clear tell signs that like these guys are going to be moving down boards now because there's more tape being seen and these things are happening?
Yeah, maybe moving down boards, but as far as projection goes, he's still going to be a top 5 pick and possibly number 2 or number 3. But yeah, with Fields, it's just like there are some processing concerns, and we've detailed them before on Twitter and on past podcasts where, when a certain safety turns one way, can he manipulate them, or is the safety going to manipulate Fields? And we've seen that a lot. And I hate to always, point out the negatives in Fields' game, but when you're one of the best recruits coming in to Georgia and then later Ohio State, and then you're perceived as one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class, you kind of have to be nitpicky. So maybe if McShay is kind of getting a consensus across the league, maybe teams are – this sounds really egotistical on my end, but maybe teams are actually understanding like, hey, we need to settle a little bit on this guy and not expect the world day one. Because it is going to take a little bit of time for him to just see those defenses. And, I mean, you saw Tua this year. I mean, he was like the check down king. And we know the physical talent he had that he still possesses. But there may have been he wasn't as comfortable maybe from a health perspective, but he wasn't comfortable reading the deeper parts of the secondary. And Fields, I'm not saying he's timid in that regard, but there is going to be some kind of growth needed in the first year or so. And I'm not saying he can't come in and be the guy day one, but don't expect him to be, Trevor Lawrence. And even, we're talking about Zach Wilson of BYU. I think Wilson's processing and just thinking a lot quickly or a lot quicker is better compared to Justin Fields. But the upside for Fields, maybe from an athletic profile and just some things we've seen the past couple of years at Ohio State, that may make him more of an intriguing quarterback prospect.
I think I'd be more worried on Fields if it was just this year, as far as tape goes, if there was only the 1 year of tape, but we've seen him for 2 years. Like, he's been solid both years, right? So like, but I do agree with your assessment, and just my assessment on it is just like, yeah, he does get stuck staring down reads. He struggles with some of those initial reads, and and there's times where he just loses some zip on some passes. But that toughness, like him to play through that rib injury a few years ago against Michigan, he hurt the knee and still played through it. So like, I love seeing that stuff. So we'll see. Jamar Chase, though, was with number 5. Just moving along here, and I promise, guys, we will get to your questions. There's tons of great dialogue here in the chats, so I'm loving it. But yeah, Jamar Chase, I think, is the top wide receiver. I've seen pro comps from Michael Crabtree, which I can't get that out of my head now. And initially, I was thinking like, man, he's kind of like Juju in a sense. Like, I kind of like him like that. And then now I got Michael Crabtree in my head, and I'm not a pro comp guy. I try not to do it, but sometimes you just fall in love with one and you can't get it out. But I love Jamar Chase. I'm not worried. Yes, Ryan, sleeper linebacker Garrett Wallow from TCU. Absolutely agree there. Zach Wilson at 6. I love Zach Wilson from a playmaking standpoint, but I'm going to be honest. Like, where was this over the course of his career? Is this a 1 year wonder type of thing? Can he be? I hate saying it. Can he be like a Patrick Mahomes in a sense, like coming in and kind of taking the league by storm? Maybe not by that sense, like being that good that quickly. But I think Zach Wilson has everything that you're looking for. I think the risk taking can be limited when you get to the NFL with the NFL coaching, but we'll see. Kyle Pitts at 7. Patrick Surtain is my top corner. So Zach, go ahead, rip me there if you want. And then obviously at 9, Devonta Smith and Kwity Paye at 10. Does Devonta Smith's frame worry you guys at all?
A little bit. I think there's room to add, and honestly, I think if his game was made on being physical, then I think I'd be a little more worried. But he's a pure route runner. He's got a lot of explosion. He can win vertically. A lot of his game really isn't due to size. It's kind of like, to a degree, obviously he doesn't have the kind of deep speed this guy has, but T.Y. Hilton was always kind of small for being a number 1 receiver. He was like 180, 190 for most of his career. And, he never really had an issue. He just would slide down if he had to, or he'd, run by guys. So frame doesn't really worry me too much. I kind of want to talk about Zach Wilson that high, though. That's what I want to talk about.
All right. So, come on, talk your shit. Let's go.
Zach Wilson. On the field, a lot of great stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you – I guess I'm always just going to be the killjoy with this, where, like, how do you grade the injury history, the fact that he's definitely not 6'3", 210? He's as much 6'3" as Kyler Murray was 5'10". Like, Kyler Murray's like 5'7", dude. Like, he
yeah.
like Wilson is probably 5'10". Like, if I had to be honest, like, if you look at him on the field, if he's 6 foot, it's a victory for him. And I know that I
will bet you right now.
Yeah, we need to know
over 6 feet. I will bet you right
over
now
6 feet?
over 6 feet. Over 6 feet. I will bet you right now.
That's hard though, because even the combine will give him 6 feet. Like that's what they did for Kyler.
No way.
The Kyler gave him what? Kyler, they gave him 5'10", and he's not 5'10". They gave Baker 6 foot, and he's not 6 foot.
The official doesn't mean official for Zach Hicks.
It doesn't mean official. It does not mean official.
How old are you?
Me? I'm 23.
Okay, dude. Well, you're like acting like you're 63 because you sound ridiculous.
Wait. I'm just saying. The height's not a huge thing. Like I don't care that much about the height. I'm just mentioning it. Like he's not 6'3".
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a huge knock. I'm saying injuries. You got the injuries. The big one that people are throwing out there is the play against good teams. Every time he went against a defense that was at least solid, it was very poor. A lot of his play. Coastal, yeah, dude. Coastal kicked his ass. Coastal kicked his ass the entire game. And don't get me wrong, BYU is not this powerhouse team where he has a bunch of elite players. I mean, he had a good left tackle and a decent tight end, but I don't know. Like, I think he's the biggest risk of the first round quarterbacks. Like I even think he's riskier than a Mac Jones type, where Mac Jones has a higher floor, I think, than him. I would take Zach Wilson way above Mac Jones, but I think Zach Jones scares me even more than someone like Trey Lance, who only started one season, because, those injuries. I don't think he's the biggest guy. I think his game is built on being outside of structure a lot. We don't know how well he can really operate in structure, which the NFL, it's a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot more lately of being out of structure, but he has to operate in structure in the NFL. Not everyone's going to be Russell Wilson when they get to the NFL, where you can invite pressure and still thrive. So I just think there's a lot of concerns about him. That's why he's not going to be a pure first round guy for me. I'm still going to have him as a fringe first rounder. So I'm not he's going to be 16th on my board. So I know I'm being kind of nitpicky here, and I'd still take him top 5, but there's concern. You have to really vet him, I think, in my opinion.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to CP in a second, but I'm going to ask you this. You mentioned Mac Jones and Zach Wilson there in the same sentence. You got, let's say, Zach Wilson at 16. Where the hell is Mac Jones on your board? Where's he going to fall?
Oh, Mac Jones the 30s. I'm not or 30s or 40s. I'm not pushing Mac Jones here over him.
So you got that big of a gap, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge gap. We shouldn't even be talking about these guys in the same sentence. So
I'm saying floor wise. If you're talking, I'm saying if you I think if you flip a coin 10 times, right? And the coin is being average, Mac Jones is going to get all 10 of those. He's probably going to be average all 10 of them. I'm pretty certain Mac Jones is going to be average every single time. But I think if you flip a coin 10 times, half the time or maybe even less than half the time, Wilson would be great. And the other half, less than half, or more than half, he'd be a bust. I just think it's a bigger risk than a guy like Mac Jones, even though I'm not comparing them directly. I would definitely take Zach Wilson, easily take Zach Wilson over Mac Jones. I'm just saying floor wise, which I know is a thing that we throw out there a lot. I would say Mac Jones has a higher floor, but Wilson, I think, is going to be a better pro than him. I just have my asshole concerns with him. Because I grade
stop talking, Zach. End it with that.
Yeah, I grade like an asshole, and that's I'm an asshole, and that's my asshole concerns with them. I have, especially quarterbacks. I feel like you have to be an asshole grading quarterbacks.
You do, but I've been burnt so many times on these quarterbacks so far. Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. I'm living and I'm learning.
Oh,
and
Kyler Murray's not even good though.
What?
No, turn on a game. He's not very good.
I do.
No, he makes a couple decent plays, but he sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we're going to get into that a different time. We will do a film breakdown on that, and anyways.
I had Josh Allen as a first-round pick, by the way, Bills fans, just to let you know. I like Josh Allen.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Anyways, get off your knees. Anyways, CP, what's your thoughts here on Zach Wilson? And let me throw in Trey Lance into the mix as well, because I don't think Zach is that big of a fan of Trey Lance, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
you like him or you don't like his – okay, I'm going to jump over to CP here. What's your spin on Zach Wilson? Is Zach being too much of an asshole here?
Yeah.
Like I said, you need to be – I will never answer that question yes or no. His face for both of us or all of us, I will not answer that question. However, though, I think the perspective that you have to come from is you have to be extremely critical and you have to play devil's advocate, because Zach Wilson and like I was with Justin Fields, if you view them, because I think if you're picking anybody in the top 20, you're looking at these guys to be a Hall of Fame player. That's what it is. And if that's the case, then you have to extremely, play devil's advocate for a guy like Zach Wilson. And those are fair critiques. However, I think the upside of Wilson with the big arm, being able to move around the pocket. Sure, I understand the critiques of playing against better opponents. He struggled some, and the same you could say for a few of these other guys as well. But with Wilson, I think he and Lawrence have the best arms in the class. I get Wilson has more of that squatty Kyler Murray, Johnny Manziel type frame, but I have not seen it come as a concern. And sure, does he leave the pocket prematurely every now and then? Yeah, but I don't see it as a glaring issue for that to be really of cause of concern. Now, however, and I think Ron mentioned it in the comments, when you're comparing to a guy like Mac Jones and even Kyle Trask, they can be almost considered statues in the pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's something you can't teach, but when you have that, I think it's maybe a little easier to probably get somebody to calm down the pocket, like a Wilson. Be like, hey, we get it. You can do a lot with your feet, but now you don't have to make plays as much. We pay guys millions and a lot of money to, put the ball in their hands and to limit, your work in the backfield about running around. So I don't think it's necessarily a knock, whether it's his body type, because I don't see it necessarily coming as an issue. Now, however, when you talk about the injury history, then maybe you can kind of red flag that. But I'm higher on Wilson. I think I like Wilson as my QB too. Fields is there. I'm not huge on. Maybe it is a little limited on just not being able to see him really play. But I think Lance kind of struggles in some of those situations. And Wilson, too, even mechanics, going back to Wilson real quick, mechanics-wise, I think he's fine. He throws a little bit of off base, but I haven't necessarily seen it come as a big issue. Lance has some lower body mechanic issues, and it does catch up to him because there's a lot of skip passes, and especially you'll see him kind of crumble a little bit when the field shortens, and that's one of my bigger critiques on Lance.
Yeah. I want to add in here before you jump in, Russ. We're gonna. I mean,
go ahead. They're
all gonna be top 20 guys for me.
Yeah,
it's just they're gonna like. I just like, especially with quarterbacks, because I like, for me. You said that you've been burned by guys like Pat Mahomes and stuff in the past.
Exactly.
Me,
yeah.
I've been burned by being higher on guys, but because I've been lenient with things they can't do. So, or like, not that they can't do, or things that they struggle with. I guess not that can't do. I guess things they struggle with, and I tend to overlook it for the upside, which. In cases like Pat Mahomes, great. It looks good. Guys like Josh Allen, it looks great. Like, I look like a genius. But I just feel like quarterbacks, you got to be strict on. And I always say with quarterbacks when I grade them too, like if I grade one as like a fringe first rounder, I'd probably take them in the top 5 because quarterbacks you have to push them way up the board. So I think Herbert and Love I both had as a fringe first. I think Love I had as a second round grade last year. But I had Herbert as a fringe first, and I easily would have taken him where he went last year. So it's just kind of how it is. I like to just look at them from a very strict lens. And yeah, like Mac Jones, I think that's a great place to put him because you're going to get a very average quarterback when you draft him.
Well, and that's the thing too with Mac Jones. Like I got him at 42, and like these are going to adjust, right? When we get some final numbers, everything gets kind of squared away, and we round off and whatever we have to do. But like with Mac Jones, like if I was a team in the first round and I needed a quarterback, and even if I had a veteran, like let's say I'm Indianapolis, for example, and I still had Phillip Rivers, I'm taking Mac Jones. And then I'm going to take him, I'm going to mold him, and obviously everything else. Now I have Carson Wentz. I'm probably not taking Mac Jones at 21, but if I'm like the Washington football team, I'm probably taking Mac Jones. So if I'm you, Zach, which you're, Washington football team fan, I would probably get to know Mac Jones a little bit better, and I'd have a little bit more respect for the guy. Anyways,
can we talk about real positions? Like quarterbacks don't matter. Let's talk about fun.
Let's move. Well, we were going to move there. I was going to get to some Q&A. What do you guys want to do? You want to stay on the big board stuff, talk fun players? Do you want to get through a couple Q&As?
Yeah, well, roll up to the top 15. I want to see if there's anyone else I have a big issue with, and then we can.
Oh my God! Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you go take a kite and fly it, or you can go to cover1.net. Find the article, then you can do that, and then you can share it on freaking Twitter.
I record a video of me going pick one by one, and I'm just like, "This is stupid. This is stupid. He's the worst. Why do y'all even look at Russ's stuff? Like, just awful.
Well, I didn't even want to do this. You guys peer pressured me into this. This is like drugs or something. Like I didn't even want to do this. Because I didn't want it to be about my stuff. But anyways.
Oh, I like 13. Lance, I like Joke. I like Joke a lot.
I like Joke. And I will say this. Jalen Waddle would be like 6 or 7, almost like similar to the sense of how we had CeeDee Lamb last year and everything else. But just the ankle injury scares me a little bit. And the whole injury thing, like seeing him run in that national championship game, I'm like, dude, I know he's not 100%, but if he can never get to 100%, especially with lower body ailment injuries, because those always reoccur, Deshaun Jackson, if that always happens, I'm worried that's going to happen to Jalen Waddle. But at 12, it's acceptable. Joke. I'm going to ask a question here on Joke in a second. Caleb Farley at 14, Rashawn Slater, interior offensive lineman at 15, and my boy Azeez Ojulari at 16. But with Joke, what the hell is he? Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel?
Safety and nickel. Safety.
CP? What is he?
He might be that Matt Milano type that a lot of these Bills fans are probably going to ask us here in a little bit. Now, will he last till 30? Absolutely not. But but he has a safety-like game, but he still has the mentality of a linebacker, if that makes sense. I mean, he's still a big hitter. He has that gap integrity as well. And heck, if you want him to rush the passer, he can do that too. But he can cover really anybody. And he's the guy, and I always hate it when people use this, but I'm going to say it anyways. In today's NFL, he is the guy that you want because he is a versatile chess piece type player, and he's not going to come off the field. And that's, I mean, if you're drafting and is he like the Isaiah Simmons type player of this year's class? Maybe, but I think he gives you more true linebacker qualities, if that makes sense. I think Simmons was better off coverage when he was not off coverage, off the ball a little bit, which I know what Arizona's doing with him right now is kind of a mess playing him inside. I don't know if that's his biggest strength to put him there, but they draft him for a reason, and we all said he could really play anywhere. But with Joke, I don't know, get him on the football field, and I think that makes his draft stock, as high as, top 8 and can go really anywhere because I think he's just kind of that kind of football player. And like I said, I hate to use that phrase all the time in today's NFL, but in today's NFL, that's the guy you want as pretty much maybe a future focal point on your defense.
Yeah.
Dear Detroit, please trade back and draft this freaking man. But also, we mentioned –
get him at 7.
Yeah, take him at 7.
No, get more picks, please. Just get more picks. I mean, you could take him at 7, but I want more draft picks. But you mentioned a bunch of different players, types of guys that he could be. Can we throw a little respect on the name of Shaq Thompson, please? Before there was Isaiah Simmons, there was Shaq Thompson, okay?
Man, he's carved up a pretty good career, too, and nobody talks about it. Yeah.
Nobody talks about it. So Carolina I just would like to say that. Okay, that's a little mean. I mean, that's a little cruel.
They're picking 6th, right? Are they picking 6th?
They're picking 8th after Detroit.
Oh, sorry, the powerhouse that is Detroit.
Exactly. Anyways, let's get to some Q&A.
One thing I will say about Joke real quick, because I know people are talking about him. I'm using this comp a lot, and you could put that one up there from Tommy Rhodes. I think this is going to go well with what I'm saying. There's a couple players in this draft where I think fit that Jamal Adams role. And you know how Seattle used Jamal Adams last year as basically in the box safety. They utilized his ability to blitz. They would have him in some man coverage situations, a lot of zone drops from that kind of box area. I think Joke is a perfect fit for that. It's like a star linebacker type or, like a spur type backer. You know how West Virginia does that 4-2-5, that kind of like spur backer? Yes. I think that is a beautiful fit for him.
Hey, so if you're going to do that, why don't you just draft Tony Fields?
Or you can just draft Jacoby Stevens, who's the best player in the whole draft. So, I mean.
Okay, you're only biased because you got to talk to him. But anyway.
Dude, no. I loved him before I talked to him. I just love him more.
No, you didn't.
He DM'd me a couple times after. Yeah, I talked to him. Dude, look at my Twitter history. I talked about him all the time.
Look at my Twitter history.
Dude, he retweeted all my old tweets about him where I called him Jacoby.
Oh, that's good though. That's good.
That's embarrassing as hell though. Like he's looking up where I'm calling him Bay.
Well, it's like when we went to the Senior Bowl and Brad was calling Deshaun Hamilton Bayshawn Hamilton.
Oh, dude, that's one of Bayshawn Hamilton, and then we had the Pringle Hive. Is what we had down there. Pringle Hive was the best. We were on the sidelines yelling Pringle Hive every time he broke someone's ankles, and now he's a pretty solid receiver. Like I'm
dude. Every time you watch the Chiefs, Byron Pringle's making a play. Every time, and you're like, man, that was my dude down in Mobile. Anyways, let's get to a quick Q&A, and then we'll try to finish up some more draft stuff and whatever.
Yeah, let's send him all the questions. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Ron Beck, I got to give respect to him because he had the first one of the night. What's your thoughts on Man, why do you have to put him in
Say
there?
it.
Because I can't pronounce his name.
Say it.
And CP's gonna laugh his ass off at me. It's
I
what is
don't
it?
even know his name.
Dale Obayan. I can't fucking say it.
Obango.
No way.
Deo Obango.
Dale Obango. That's good. Anyways, the defense, the stuff I've watched, he looks impressive. Does anybody want to start? You want me to start? Who wants to go first?
Christian watched a lot of the SEC. He could probably start.
Golly, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that question. No, but I have watched a little bit more in personal notes since being an Auburn graduate. Derek Mason's now Auburn's defensive coordinator, so I have watched a little more of Vanderbilt's defense, and he definitely stands out. Now, I give you a tremendous, detailed breakdown of him. Not as much, but I know his name has popped up. Maybe it's just Ron, adding us in the Slack channel. But I know his name has come up a little more among Twitter, so it seems like he's getting some kind of buzz. Now, where that buzz lies, I do not know, but y'all may have a little more on him to go a little deeper.
I think Russ did a couple breakdowns or a couple clips of him, but from what I've seen, did he actually play a little bit of defensive end at the Senior Bowl? I think he lined up a little bit defensive end at Senior Bowl, and he's a big dude. But I like how he moves for his size. Like there's clips, and I'm sure Russ will talk about him in a second, but I know I saw some clips from Russ where he's standing up over the nose tackle. He's kind of mugging some A gaps. He's standing in that one tech, zero tech type, and he's just super quick and super explosive. I saw him get on the end a couple times. He's able to win with his speed, even though he's, again, a bigger guy. So I do like him for sure. But Russ, I know you studied him probably more than either of us.
So Deo's one of those guys, man. He's like a Charles Amenu in a sense. Very versatile, very similar frame, long-bodied. I don't have his Senior Bowl measurements in front of me, but I think his measurements were very comparable to what Charles Amenu was. And let me just say a quick fun story on Charles Amenu. We were talking on Twitter before the Senior Bowl and everything, and then I was like, hey, I'm going to be down there. If you ever want to just like hook up for an interview, let me know, blah, blah, blah. He comes down to the hotel lobby, and guys, he walked down there, and like I knew he was a big dude, but I was like literally like, holy hell, man. Like, and then he shook my hand, and it was like, because I got White Castle sliders for hands, right? So like this dude like absolutely just ate my hand with his hand. Massive guy. But anyways, for Deo, I like him. Versatile, can play in a 3-tech, 4-eye, all the way to a 2-eye. He can go all over the place. But he did tear his Achilles, and I those scare me. It's not like an ACL. I mean, Achilles is like my biggest fear of an injury. Me personally, like you could do that walking to your mailbox. Like I'm so worried every day. I'm like, man, please, Achilles, please keep it going. Like I got to get to like 70, keep it going. I don't want to tear this thing. He's done it already. Yeah. That worries me. And I mean, I'm a Lions fan. I have bad memories all the way across the board, but I instantly think Achilles. I think Michael LaShore, and he was never the same running back after he tore his Achilles.
That's actually the running back killer. If you actually look throughout the history of Achilles injuries, there's Arian Foster, right? He was
before the Achilles, he was off his rocker.
No, he had a 1,000-yard season, tore his Achilles.
I'm talking off the field. He was off his rocker. He thought he could wrestle like a cheetah or whatever.
He probably would have won. He's different. He's built different.
No, he's not. Go as you were.
Anyway, him. And then a couple of lesser-known guys like Orleans Darkwa, I believe, never played again after his. Isaiah Crowell never played again after his. And now the one who's hitting free agency, which is a bummer because he was really finding his groove as a player, is Marlon Mack. He was 1,000-yard season, tore his Achilles. We'll see how he bounces back. He'll actually be the best test for it because he's probably the best running back to have one in a long time. So we'll see. But that injury is the killer of running backs. Receivers have not had a good history of coming back from it, and defenders are a lot slower coming back. It is a murderous disease or a disease injury. Murderous injury.
Bro, hey, this is not coronavirus.
It's
coronavirus. Settle down.
No, but it's a murderous injury though for football players. Like ACL, I don't even really do second thoughts about it. I'm just like, okay, he's gonna miss a year. He'll come back and he'll be fine. But Achilles injuries really are the ones that get me because I'm like, shit, there goes that explosiveness.
And to your point, Marlon Mack is 24 years old, so he will definitely be the test of like the quote unquote like new age Achilles tear. And like you said, from where he is and where he was trending, like he was starting running back and
a good starting running back. Yeah,
he was solid. And so he will kind of be like I won't say test dummy, but he will kind of be like that gauge to see how these guys can really recover at such a young age. So
absolutely. Ooh, we got here.
So that's on Deo, and there's plenty of comments coming in, a lot of questions. So honestly, I'll just say this real fast. If you want to check out the big board, we'll probably try to circle back to it by the end. But if you want to see more, go to cover1.net. Made that graphic, by the way. It looks sick. Kadarius Toney's my boy. Dylan Ray Dunn's also my boy at 23. Suck it, Zach. Christian Garris at 25.
Oh, I like Reduns. What are you talking about? I actually like that ranking.
Javante Williams at 30. Me and Zach broke him down. Suck it, Zach.
Everybody likes him, Russ. Everybody.
I'm not that
35. 35. Landon Dickerson. Suck it, Zach.
If he didn't have the knee injury stuff, where would you have him?
Oh, dude. I mean, who was it a couple years?
More injuries. I wouldn't say the knee injury stuff because I think he's had now this will be his third knee surgery going back to Florida State and this past year at Alabama, I think.
Do you know who he reminds me of who had a shit ton of injuries too coming out? It's Frank Ragnow. And Frank Ragnow was my dude back in that draft.
Been a stud. And I will say this, I was pissed as hell when Frank Ragnow was the pick and Billy Price was still on the board. And I was completely wrong. So don't listen to anything I'm saying. I'm an idiot. I'm just a guy. I'm a moron.
Dude, I
just spent a bunch of time.
I had Ragnow as like my 12th overall player in that draft. I loved him irrationally. Like I should not have had him that high. But oh my gosh, I loved him so much. His film was the most fun. Like his film was like top 5 most fun I've ever had watching a player. Frank Ragnow would be in there. Like, he was so good.
Yeah, and I will say this: Rashad Weaver at 34. That's rich for some people. I don't give a. I don't care. 6'5", 270. I don't care. He's 6'5", 270.
That Matt has here at the bottom. I think that might be your answer to it. Who are your favorite round 2 to 4?
Rashad Weaver would be perfect in round 4.
And I will say this before we get into. Oh my God, I'm listening
for you to hear it.
At 39, Elijah Vera Tucker. Let me just say, I only had watched 2 games, and I had already put grades on them. And then I put the board together, and I was like, "Screw it! I'm not going back and forth." I've watched more. Holy hell!
Yeah,
I freaking love this kid. I love this kid, and I will say this. I will say this. Props to CP because all season long, he's been like, Elijah Vera Tucker. I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever. Go mow your lawn. Go be warm in Alabama. I got like -9 degrees up here in Michigan. And then he's like, Rashawn Slater this, Rashawn Slater that. This dude's been a stud over here just getting interior offensive linemen. The guy knows line play. And 39 Elijah Vera Tucker is an absolute beauty. And I love it. The guy's a first rounder all day long. But let's get to some more Q&A. Matt asks, who are your favorite round 2 through 4 edge rushers and cornerbacks? I really don't care who goes first. I'm not.
You just landed on another answer, I think, right there at the top of your screen with Eric Stokes. As far as cornerbacks go in round 2, that's probably one.
I'll take edge rushers. I like edge rushers on day 2. I love this class for edge rushers on day 2. Jordan Smith out of UAB is my personal favorite.
A giant.
Oh my God!
Senior Bowl, bigger than I expected, and we even knew his measurables coming in. He is huge.
6'6", like 255, and he can bend. Like he can bend for it. Like, he's got that cross chop and that speed on the edge. Like, I am fully smitten on him. I would take him in round 1, but he's probably going to go day 2. Huge fan of Jordan Smith. Peyton Turner, who we talked to, Russ. I love Peyton Turner on day 2. I think he's going to be a very productive player for a long time. Patrick Jones, another good one. I'm glad you rolled on that one there. Patrick Jones, for like 5 plays a game, is the best edge rusher in this class. It's just the every other play besides those 5 is where I have my concerns. But
that's a really good point. Yeah.
But seeing those 5 plays, it's like, holy shit, what can he be? Like, he can be really good. So I'm a big fan. And I'll throw one more out there because not enough people are talking about this guy, but he added 20 pounds to his frame going into the Senior Bowl and still looked super explosive and super bendy. And that's Ellerson Smith out of Northern Iowa. He spent a whole year adding weight and strength to his frame, and he still looks like an athletic freak. So I am 100% behind Ellerson Smith. I liked his film because he actually gave Radunes a good little fight there in 2019. I don't know if you saw that film yet, Russ, but in 2019, he gave Radunes a pretty good battle, and that's when he was 20 pounds lighter. And I think Ellerson Smith, in my opinion, is the number 1 candidate for edge rusher to outplay his draft position. I think he's like the Max Crosby of this class, where goes in that 3rd or 4th round and just is a really good day 1 starter. I think Ellerson Smith's going to be that guy.
That's a really good comp too. And I will say from the Senior Bowl, Ellerson Smith was probably one of the guys that stood out the most and didn't get talked about enough. So, and by the way, Northern Iowa's playing tonight, random as hell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're playing like South Dakota State or something. Very random. But CP, I'll let you take the floor on this question as well. Any corners, edge rushers, anything like that?
Yeah, I'll go the corner route. One guy I think that's been getting kind of buzz right now is Greg Newsome out of Northwestern. He could be probably, say, potentially a top 50 pick. Has really quick feet. I think you can put him on the outside. He does well in man situations. You can keep him off. And I always tell Russ, and the listeners know on the podcast, it's hard to explain it, but it's hard to sometimes read the level of intelligence from a football player. But when you see them just perform at such a high level, they're just oozing with that like high football IQ. And I think he's one guy that kind of embodies that. So he's a guy that could probably, I would say maybe top 50. I think that's probably a good range. I would say I would almost probably ink him in unless something happens in the top 2 rounds. And then Benjamin St. Just from Minnesota, he had a really good Senior Bowl. He finished the week really strong. Kind of plays maybe more of that tweener safety corner role, but he was really good underneath, and he had some really nice pass breakups in the end zone. So those are 2 guys. I don't know where. I think it's St. Just. I forget how you pronounce his last name. He's probably more of a day 3 guy, but Newsome's a guy that's gaining some buzz right now. It's kind of trending in the upward direction.
Benjamin St. Just is a dude that, like, every time I watched Minnesota, because I've watched a lot of Big Ten stuff because I live in, like, the middle of it all. And every time I watched them play, I was like, damn, dude, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I haven't watched him in depth, but it's like, he's like a future Tampa Bay Buck. Like, he's just going to go to Tampa. He's gonna roll in behind Carlton Davis and be an absolute stud, because we're not going to keep all those corners, right? Like Bunting Murphy, whatever his name is. He's going to go somewhere, and you got Carlton Davis. He might. Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to leave, but he might. I mean, I don't know. But
if he sticks around in Tampa, he's going to get paid.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about St. Just, just to add, he is the best tackling corner in this class. Easily. Sure. He is the best tackling corner in the entire class. J.C. Horn is close. I love J.C. Horn.
Eric Stokes is close,
Stokes is good. Stokes is good, but St. Just is like 220. Like, he can get up there with anybody. Like, Stokes is a little tiny compared to St. Just.
We don't like Sean Wade's tackling ability?
We don't like Sean Wade at all.
Whoa. I like Sean Wade, but I just don't love Sean Wade.
He's now going to be picked. And like, I feel like the playoff games kind of brought him down back to earth. And I know he was kind of playing out of position all year because he had to, embody that outside boundary type corner. That's not his role. But Ohio State forced him that way because Okudah had left. And Okudah, I mean, he's kind of struggled a little bit this year. Russ, I know you can talk more about that, but that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying he's super young, and he was kind of out of a role that he was familiar with. But with Wade, he probably is more of a free safety type, but because he can't tackle, so we're really covered.
My question was, before you just absolutely just ripped me apart, my question. I
never said it was a bad pick. That never
look,
came.
Man. Valentine's Day just passed. You just ripped my heart out. I thought we had a good thing going, but I guess not. Anyways, Sean Wade, where does he go? Like, what round does he go? Obviously, first round's out of the question. Second round, is that too rich? I mean, and if he does go in the second round, what is the best fit for him?
Probably somewhere that needs a good nickel. Pittsburgh, because Mike Hilton's going to leave. I could see him filling in for Mike Hilton's
spot. Good fit.
Yeah, in the slot with Pittsburgh, you have Minka on the back end that can cover you a little bit. You got Devin Bush if he comes back a good. I think that's a great fit for him there in day 2.
I'll tell you this: watching every single Titans game, Titans need significant help in the secondary. So
yeah, but you guys also need pass rush too. You guys got to take pass rush at first.
Clowning goose egg. But yeah.
Let's go to another one. Yeah, let's go to a good one here.
I'm going down the line here. I'm literally going down the line. Who are 3 players in your top 32 that may fall in the actual draft? Does not need to be in the first round or out of the first round. That's a good question. I'll start just looking at my board. I'll pull that up here for everybody.
All of them on Russ's board. All 32.
Son of a USOB. Oh man.
I can say I would say this first.
I will say that Dylan Ray-Guns at 23 is maybe rich for the NFL, not rich for me. But he could be a second round pick, like comparable to. I'm not saying he's comparable to the player, but like comparable.
And I know based on the answer to the question, yes, but I don't think second round would necessarily like freak anybody out. Like, oh no, what happened? Like, what's the skinny on his scouting report? Because he is kind of that borderline guy. But to answer you answer the question correctly, so I'm not going to give you a hard time.
Yeah, no, I would go Ray Duns. I would go probably ETN, and then I would probably go Davion Nixon. None of these guys have first-round grades for me, but I would say those 3 guys, we could see them in the first round, but we could also see them somewhere as great picks in the second round. Nixon's my top defensive tackle. I know a lot of people love Christian Barmore, and it's hard to look past, I don't know how I'm going to word this. It's hard to look past Barmore's production from quarterback pressures. He was the top defensive tackle in quarterback pressures. I think it was 34. I think it's actually in here somewhere. But or 37 was top for all interior defensive linemen, and that's from Pro Football Focus. But so like teams like the Raiders who need help up front on their defensive line, they need some pressure, all that good stuff. So like Barmore could be that guy. But Davion Nixon to me is very comparable in my opinion to like a Kenny Clark. I think that's probably his ceiling. I think he could come in and have that type of impact down the road. So that's why I like him. But I think those 3 guys for sure could be like day 2 picks, but solid day 2 picks.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at your list. I think Rashad Bateman, you have him at 17. I'm not certain at all where he's going to go.
Yeah.
Because sure, like
the Colts
at the beginning of the season, like we kind of viewed him as maybe more that wide receiver 1, but I don't know, just compared to some of these other guys that are maybe trending upwards, and you had a season like for Devontae Smith, but I don't know. I'm not going to say Bateman's not going to go round 1, but I would not be surprised if he slips out of the round 1 discussion. And another guy too, Greg Rousseau out of Miami, he'll be a first round pick. But I think he's another guy that he has all the physical attributes that you want. Long arms, has really good flexibility. It's pretty good quickness off the snap. But I'm interested too if teams are going to really covet him as like their primary pass rusher in the draft. So those are 2 guys that I'm kind of questioning. Yeah, Rousseau you have at 20, and then Bateman at 17. So that'd be the answer to that question based on your board.
Yeah, the only guy I'll add that he'll end up being a top. I guess I'll add 2 guys. They'll both be top 32 guys for me, but one of them I'm 99% sure he's not going to go first, and that's Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky. The off field is just so messy, and he'll probably just be. He might not end up in my 32 just because of that off field, but his film is top 10 in the class. I think his film is phenomenal. I would definitely say check him out if you guys want to see a really, really fun and good corner, but he's not going to go in the first round with his off field. And then I'll also say Tevin Jenkins. I don't think Jenkins is going to go in the first. And the main reason is his really short arms, and also like how the NFL thinks of him. Is he going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a guard? I don't think they even know right now. I think some teams will have, some teams will have him as a tackle, some will have him as a guard. So I could see him falling to that early second round range and being a solid starter in the league. But those would be the two guys I would say. I mean, Kelvin Joseph is definitely not going in the first, and if I had to completely guess there.
That's fair. Feel free to keep adding. I'm looking for another question. There's a lot of comments in here.
Tony's interesting to me. I don't know if he goes in the first. I think his film is a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I think he goes in the first, dude. I think he does.
He might like it wouldn't shock me if he does. But the thing is,
out of all the receivers that have been picked, even not necessarily like gadget guys that Tony could be, I'm pretty solid. I feel pretty good about him going round one.
Well, think about like Debo, right? Is like the bigger, stronger version of him, and he went in the second round, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he went in the second. So I don't know. I could see a way where he falls out with his size. I mean, he's 5'11", 190, and he's a rack receiver. You know, that's his big play. So I could definitely see that being a reason why he falls a little. But I don't see him falling too far. Like his tape is phenomenal.
You mean to tell me Green Bay sitting there at, what are they, 29?
Yeah, they're going to take them.
They're going to take Mac Jones. They're going to take Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, Jordan Love, and
oh my! I would love it for so many reasons. I do stuff for the Packers, like their Pack-A-Day podcast with Andy Herman and that great group of people, and I would absolutely love it. I would love it. Me as a Lions fan, love it. Mess up the draft, please do.
They won't take a wide receiver. Help out their offense? Heck no.
They won't take a wide receiver. They'll take like an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah,
They'll take Barrymore.
They're gonna have to take a right tackle. They're gonna. I mean, unless they really think John Runyon's the guy, they're gonna need to take a tackle. They just cut Rick Wagner.
Runyon's good. Runyon's pretty good though.
Runyon is good, but like I could see them going after like a Jalen Mayfield and just bringing in like two Michigan boys, having the. Yeah. Oh, that's a good comp.
Dude, that's my comp for him. It's Jason Spriggs. Yeah.
Woo!
I haven't watched the 20. So wait, real quick before we get to Javante Williams here, because we should probably get to the next question. But yeah, I put Mayfield's comp as Spriggs before I watched the 2020 stuff. I actually didn't even know he played in 2020, and people have told me that's much, much better. So I'm gonna have to put a pause on my anti Jalen Mayfield brand for now. I'm gonna keep it as an anti Trey Smith brand, but I will. Well, we might get back to the anti-Jalen Mayfield. We're going to put a pause on that right now.
You're going to like 2020, but you're not going to love 2020. Just knowing you're going to.
Then he sucks again.
So, but he's going to go from like Spriggs to whatever like right is above that. Like whatever.
2019, his 2019 film was utter garbage. Like he is one of the worst. Like I thought I was watching the wrong guy at first, but I saw Shaka Tony putting him on his ass for
that's not good.
Entire game.
If Mayfield does this year, he did look a lot stronger.
Okay, good, because
sometimes especially from that. Like I guess it was junior to senior year for Mayfield. You don't necessarily see a dramatic difference in like your physical, play or anything like that. But you actually see it. You more see that from freshman to sophomore, or even sometimes sophomore to junior. But for him, you definitely see it because they play Minnesota week 1, and they look pretty good. So
okay, good, because that was my biggest issue. I mean, Shaka Tony put him on his ass every day, and Shaka Tony's like a safety playing defensive end because he's so tiny looking.
Yeah, he's a guy I don't know where to put him in the league. With Tony.
I'm gonna kick both your asses.
All right, let's get to Williams now. Russ can go on for hours about Javante Williams. Before I kick this over to Russ, though, go check out our film breakdown of him. It was awesome. Russ was gushing the entire time.
Oh, no, I wasn't even going on the whole question. I was going on the Shaka Tony slander here.
I know. I was trying to move on so we get to the questions here because we keep going off on different tangents.
Well, and this is what's going to happen, guys. If you do this with us, if we do this every Friday night or every Friday or every other Friday night, you're going to get two drunken idiots, one guy drinking water, and then with side tangents on stuff. That's absolute nonsense. Anyways, thoughts on Javante Williams from North Carolina. This is from Peter J 516. And do I need to start? Do I need to go in on this?
Why don't you just take the whole thing?
Yeah, we have the whole YouTube video from my thoughts on him too. So this is all you, Russ. You go.
Taking the whole I mean, I don't know though. I mean, CP likes North Carolina. I mean, Do you want me to take?
I mean, I'm probably going to mirror because, like we said, like everybody really likes Javante Williams and his upside. I mean, he smooth and changing direction. He catch the football. He got better at that this year. He has really good pad level, acceleration. Like he's kind of if there wasn't a Najee Harris in this class,
you took the words out of my mouth.
A lot of more people would be like, "Hey, Williams could be RB1," because I'm not saying Etienne's not at RB2, but I think Etienne showed a little more struggles and more concerns this year, not just fumbling, but I think Williams just full package wise, Williams RB2 was not out of the question.
Okay. Wait, let me be the asshole.
Oh my god.
Okay, wait. No,
what?
I'm gonna preface it by saying I really loved this film. Like amazing vision, contact balance is probably the best in the class, maybe outside of Najee. But where are you guys with his athleticism? Like his overall long speed, quickness? Like I think it's fairly average. Like
long speed, yes. Quickness, though, that doesn't matter to me because his contact balance is absurd. And everything that he does in the short areas of the field is what makes him the running back that he is. And that's what's going to define him at the next level. And for me, that matters much more than anything that's a little shifty, little jitterbug and everything else. Like if the Lions and I always freaking refer everything to the Lions because obviously I have to, right? So if they didn't have DeAndre Swift, I'd be pounding the table for this guy. But I know we can't afford to take a guy like this. But if you're getting Javante, like I personally think he's going in the first round. I personally think that. I think somebody's going to pull the trigger on him in the first round. A team in the back end, like Tampa, Tampa Bay would be awesome for him. I think Tampa Bay would be a home run for him. Don't bring back Fournette. Take him at 32 and just run with it, just like the Chiefs. For some reason, they bring in Le'Veon Bell. They use Darrell Williams. They don't use Clyde when they're in the red zone. Anyways, I digress. Use Javante Williams. I don't care that much about the average athleticism. It's enough to get by, and everything else makes up for it just because of the ability. So
I agree.
I didn't mean to hijack it out
there. I just wanted to get you going. All right, so let's look at another question here. We got a bunch of good ones coming. Oh, we got Greg.
Yeah,
we got Greg in here.
We got to throw one out. We got to throw one out to Greg. Greg's awesome. Love Greg. Who is just Greg's is like. If I could rank people, screw you, Zach. If I could rank people, it would literally be CP and Greg, like neck and neck, 1A, 1B, like great people. Zach's at the bottom. ET's right there in the middle. Aaron Quinn's down there with you, Zach. But other than that, like, I'm not even on the list. I'm not even on.
I'm gonna tell Eric on you. Eric's not even on the list either. It looks like I'm gonna tell Eric.
He's in the middle. There's days he becomes my boss, and I'm like, stop it. Anyways, who is a player who everyone loves because they think he's a sleeper, but then they'll say he's a reach when he goes in the first, where he should have all along gone.
It's Melifonwu.
Ooh,
it's Fido Melifonwu, whatever. Like,
that's a good one.
I think it's him. Yeah, that's my number one for this.
Oh, he's going to Seattle, right? He's going to Seattle. They don't have a first rounder.
Oh, do they not? Oh, yeah, they don't. Oh my God, they trade all that for Jamal Adams. Oof. When they trade back up into the first, it's going to be for Melifonwu. But yeah, I could see it because, well, if they had a first, I could see it because,
dude, you know who's going in the first round?
Who?
Sean Wade, and he's going to Jacksonville because they got that back end first round pick. Urban Meyer's taking his boy.
No, but I legit think Melifonwu is probably the guy who fits this the best because his film's really good. I think you could call him like a sleeper type, but when he goes in the first, you know that like Todd McShay's and them will be like, "What? No, he shouldn't have gone this high," stuff like that. But I think you can make a case for him in the first. I like his film. I think he's a good player.
I don't know if I can answer this from a first-round perspective, but I'm not going to even try to say his last name. But Levi, the Washington defensive tackle, I think somebody that a lot of people kind of started kind of catching steam at him lately. He was kind of entering the Senior Bowl. And because Russ and I talked a little bit about him, I think it was think the Tuesday maybe of that week I was in Mobile, the Senior Bowl, and a guy that we were kind of like, I don't know if it was recorded or we're talking off air, whatever it may have been, but I'm not 100% sure where he's going to line up and what you draft him as. And I would assume that some NFL teams see the same issues with that or the same struggles. But he's a guy that, you're seeing a little bit more buzz. And it seems like a lot more people, which I get it. Some of his film is fun, but can he consistently rush the passer inside? Can he consistently play with good pad level? I don't know, but don't draft a defensive tackle in the top 40, 45 if he can't do either one of those things consistently. And I'm not saying that's where he's going to get picked, but I think that would be one where, a lot of people kind of forgot about him, and he's kind of gaining back that steam here entering draft season. But I think that may be a decent answer for that question.
That's a great answer, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's really solid. And we did talk about that on the podcast, which, of course, everybody can find on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, wherever you get your podcasts. Search Cover One Draft Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. But, yeah, we did talk about it just simply because what does he play? Like, he's undersized. Is he Solomon Thomas? What the hell is he? Like, I don't know. Like, that's the first player I think of when I see, like, somebody that size. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, I got burnt on Solomon before. I'm going to get burnt again here. Yeah, no, I agree. Another good question, actually, is right here from Adam D. Thoughts on Dylan Moses, the fall, how late does he go, and what's his real fit? I'm going to just jump in here because I love Dylan Moses, and it was very clear he played through the injury. I guess that's just what Alabama does. Like, they rush their guys back after injuries, Jalen Waddle and so on and so forth. But it was very clear, like, he was playing through the injury. He looked uncomfortable on the field. Like, it was very evident in between reps, during the rep, he was uncomfortable. But if you get him fully healthy, the range is there, his ability in the box, the way he stacks and sheds, like, he's not perfect at it. But everything that he can do, I think other linebackers in this class can do. And had he not been injured, he would have, let's say he came back anyways. We would be talking about him as one of the top linebackers. It would literally be him, Micah Parsons, 1 and 2, however you want to frame that, and then Joke, and then everybody else behind it. But I think Dylan Moses is a second-round pick. I think he goes on day 2, and I think a team's going to get a quality starter. I honestly do. So, I mean, I think Jalen Smith. I mean, if I could compare it to anything, think Jalen Smith.
Well, you want to go better than Jalen Smith. I mean, this last year was pretty awful for Jalen Smith, but before last year.
Dude, you are a hater.
You get no pass from this.
No. Watch Jalen Smith last year. It was rough, but I agree with everything you said outside of Jalen Smith this past year. No, like Russ said it perfectly. I think all the same things. No, I think all the same things. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I don't even think there's much more I can add to that. Unless CP, do you have anything?
No, I mean, we've talked. I feel like we get a Dylan Moses question often because it's kind of. I always hate to use the word unique, but he kind of is a unique situation because, like Russ said, like going into last year, he was considered to be like a top 10 player in the draft, and then he injures his knee, comes back, and took him a while to get back to even 75% of what he was, which 75% of his 2019 tape was actually pretty solid. But he is kind of a shell of himself because one of his biggest things is maybe not from a technique standpoint. He was a consistent tackler or had that consistent gap integrity, but his acceleration was near to the elite level, and you saw him definitely take a step back in that area this year. But still a good player. I think maybe he's kind of swept some of that lower body injury under the rug where a team would really feel comfortable with him in the second round.
Yeah.
No, big agree. Got a couple of Colts questions. Obviously, some Colts followers in here for Zach. And I think this is important, actually, because I like the Colts. And fun story. Well, not really fun, but side note, I guess I should say. My high school football team, our uniforms were exactly like the Colts. So I always got a soft spot for the Colts because we had the blue jerseys with the two white stripes on the shoulder. We look like the Colts out there, but we didn't play like the Colts. Let me tell you that. Anyways, Matt brings up a good question. Zach mentioned last night Colts needed a deep and taller threat down the field for Wentz. Who could Colts grab in day 2? that presents those traits. Now, Zach, I'm sure you've mentioned this enough today. You can jump in whenever, but I'm turning this over to CP because screw you, Zach.
A taller, deeper threat downfield. How would Terrace Marshall fit in the Colts system?
Perfect. That's who I put in a mock draft. I mean, I just did a fuck it. I'm just going to do a mock draft together. But I did Terrace. So I think Marshall is the perfect fit where when Ballard inevitably trades down from 21 to get back some picks after trading for Wentz. So when he goes from like 21 to early 30s or something like that, Marshall is a perfect fit. I love it. That is my guy for that.
Yeah, I think he's kind of the forgotten guy in this.
Yeah.
And kind of the reverse question that Greg addressed, like who's a guy that people kind of forgot about, but when he's picked maybe in the first round, people are like, oh yeah, like Marshall could be that guy because I think he has some wide receiver one qualities, not to the point of his teammate Jamar Chase, but he's not going to go in the same range. Marshall's a guy that I think you could use as, potentially work your way up into a wide receiver one, but to me right now, he seems like he has the floor as a wide receiver two. And I think, like you said, to Zach's point, I think he would work well in a wide receiver two role or just a typecasted role, whether it is test the deep parts of the field and maybe do some other things. But I think kind of the wide receiver one and wide receiver two billing, I think that's kind of going away a little bit because we see so much more diverse wide receiver skill sets. And like we're saying, Tony may go round one, but does he have those physical characteristics of your typical wide receiver one guy? No, but could he be your gadget guy and be your leading receiver on a team? Sure, why not?
Really well said. Yeah, I agree. Russ, do you want to throw in your deep guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Terrace Marshall a lot. I will say this. I don't think he's necessarily a deep guy. I'll throw in two. I think Josh Palmer out of Tennessee could very well be an option there. And I don't think he'd be day two. Both these guys, I think that I'm going to say are not necessarily day two. They're day three guys. Day two at best for sure. And they might not necessarily be like true deep threats. Like when I think deep threat, the first guy that comes to my mind, Deshaun Jackson every time, right? Probably not that type of body or anything like that. But Palmer, one of those guys, a thicker build for wide receiver. The other one is actually somebody that that Zach talked to today or the other day.
God damn it, you're going to take Josh.
This. I'm taking it from you because, first of all, this has been my guy for a long time before anything. Check the receipts on Twitter. And this dude, 6'2", 220, transferred out of USC, came to Illinois, blew it up for Illinois. I'm a Big Ten guy. Get out of here. I'm not saying his name.
Oh, I'll say it. I his name.
We'll get to you in a second. Hold on. But I think him in the Colts system would be fantastic. I think he could be a true riser. Zach, the floor is yours. Take the guy away.
Josh Imatorbhebhe.
He has Bay in his name. You didn't have to add it, right?
Yeah. Dude, I love this dude. Like, obviously this is an extreme comparison because I had the guy I'm going to compare him to as a top 5 player in his class. And Imatorbhebhe is probably an early day 3 guy for me. But I think he's kind of like a smaller DK Metcalf where he's a complete freak.
Ooh.
You kind of like, right? Like you kind of like it. He's actually really good friends with DK Metcalf too. But he's a complete
he ain't
freak.
Playing like DK.
No, look, nobody's DK. But where Imatorbhebhe wins is quick slants and vertical routes. Those are his 2 places where he wins. And he's a monster after the catch because he is built like a truck. And he can climb the ladder. We all know that famous video of him jumping 47.1 inches going into college. I wonder if he can get up to 50 now. I didn't even ask him that. Like, he's an absolute freak of an athlete, built like a running back. I think you can use him like Metcalf is used in Seattle, where it's a lot of quick slants, a lot of vertical routes, and you can have a very productive receiver. So early day 3, Indy, I really want Indy to take him there. I really like him. And also, I will say from talking to him today, I talked to him on the phone for about 20 minutes. Just a really good dude. Like, I really think he's going to be a radio guy when he's done in the NFL. Like, super.
You said that about everybody you've talked to.
No. Tyreek Gillespie is not a radio guy. Okay. I will. But I will say, Jacoby Stevens can be in radio, and Josh Imatorbhebhe could definitely be in radio. Those guys, like, they know, they just know, like, very smart guys who are really well spoken and really know their shit. So yeah, I really like him, man. I think he's fun. But yeah, Josh Palmer's a great one too. I really like Josh Palmer. He had a really good Senior Bowl. Definitely shocked me a bit, like how good he was. Austin Watkins, I think, is fun. Big guy who can get down the field. Yeah, I think this guy just mentioned here, Darden, I think is a good one that everyone likes. Jalen Darden out of North Texas, I believe. He's getting a lot of hype. There's a lot of intriguing, like everyone's talking about the top end of this class for receivers, but I really like that date, like late day 2, early day 3 spot for receivers in this class. Frank Darby's fun. I like Frank Darby.
Yami Brown could be a
Yami Brown, yeah. Yeah, it's a fun receiver class.
He averaged like 20, 22 yards per catch, maybe over his career. I know this year, everything he caught was over like 30 yards, it seemed like.
Dude, I like this receiver class so much from the late day 2 to early day 3. There are so many guys I'd take there. Yami Brown's probably going to go higher than that. He'll go in the, I think, early to mid day 2. But man, this is a fun. Josh Palmer is a good one too, though. I was watching some of Trey Smith and Brandon Kennedy the other day, and all I see is like every couple plays, Josh Palmer just streaking down with a big catch. And I'm like, God damn, I want him on my team. He's fun.
But that's the thing. We haven't even gotten to like other receivers. Like CP brings up Yami Brown. Great point. That's one of my guys for sure. But also, like, how about St. Brown from USC, who's actually in the banner on the thumbnail or whatever the show. Like, maybe not a true deep threat, but again, one of those effective guys. And like, you already have, he's like somewhat comparable to Pittman in a sense. And I'm not scouting the helmet, like, but just very comparable in that sense, like kind of same skill set. But you've got Rondell Moore, we didn't even talk about. Are you afraid of the injuries? But like, the dude had like a 45-inch vertical the other day at like 5'10". I mean, he could be somebody that they look at. Amari Rodgers, Cornell Powell, both those guys are fun wide receivers.
Powell's
really good. Like,
Powell's fun.
He's a stud. He's a stud, and he might not jump out of the gym, but he is going to battle with physical corners, defensive players all of the time, and he is just fun. So like, and I've been on Rodgers since. That's been my guy forever.
Yeah.
So like, but he could be a deep threat, and that's the thing. Like, so many of these guys aren't even going to be deep threats. They're going to be used in the short areas of the field too. And I think that's where that's almost as important for Wentz as throwing it deep down the field, because I mean, let's be honest, the guy, I mean, what's his average? Like 7 yards per attempt or something like that. Like, he's not going to throw it deep down the field. And like, I get it. Most quarterbacks are probably averaging that anyways. So like, he's not going to throw it deep down the field all the time. But I wouldn't even want Carson to throw the ball deep down the field. Like, I would want them to incorporate some RPO stuff. I want Jonathan Taylor to be effective in the box. And I want some short area stuff, because if T.Y. is not back, like, you need to get somebody used in the short areas in the field at that wide receiver spot. And T.Y. is not the same guy he was 2-3 years ago, right? Like, we know that. But aside from all of that, like, we're talking Amari, we're talking Rondell Moore, some of those guys, if they can get in there and be those short areas effective in the box type of guys, I think it'd be huge.
Well, I will just add this before we get to another question here, but T.Y. wasn't really that vertical threat this past year. They didn't really have anyone who could get down the field. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr. did that in college,
right? But
they used him as a rack receiver last year, and he was pretty awesome in that role. Paris Campbell, if he ever plays again, because, dude, every time he touches the football field, gets hurt. Paris Campbell is a pure rack receiver, and get the ball in his hands, he does something special. Same with Zach Pascal is kind of more that short to intermediate. So I think they do need that vertical threat just to open the field. And a guy who I really want to – oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was good. You kind of lagged, but I was going to ask you a question. And go ahead with what you were saying. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
I was going to say one free agent guy, or two free agent guys I really want them to look at is Marvin Jones and Tyrell Williams. I think those are guys who fit the Carson Wentz vertical receiver, where it's not like this superb elite athlete who's going to run past everybody, but someone who can win vertically and also climb the ladder and make a play if they have to. So that's kind of where I want them to go. And that's why I think someone like Imatorbhebhe in the early day 3, who is someone who can win vertical, but if he has to, he'll climb the ladder and make a play. That's the kind of guy that I want.
What athletic receivers has Carson Wentz had? Like, seriously, that's a legit question.
I mean, Aguilar was a good athlete.
Yeah, just couldn't.
Deshaun
Whiteside, no.
Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, Deshaun was, but it's like these all. I mean, and that's Philadelphia in a nutshell. Even whatever upside they had, all of them have lower body injuries, and when you have to pull Greg Ward at the end of the last season, like that's not. I mean, cool story, but that's not what you want your franchise quarterback to really be his first option.
Dude, Jay Jaw, I had him as a late day 3 guy, and they took him in the 2nd round, and I was laughing so hard. I thought Jay Jaw was awful on film.
They've made some very questionable 2nd round picks to help Carson Wentz get established and continue down the road that he needed to be. Like you went Jay Jaw, and then you went Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, that's just bad. That's bad. But my question was going to be, and I did not want this to turn into a Colts podcast, because if that's the case, we can go to Zach's Colts podcast, which is, go ahead, take the floor.
Believe in Colts with Jake Arthur, who worked with, or still kind of works with, the Colts.com, and also works with Colts Sports Illustrated. Great dude. If you guys know Jake Arthur, he's awesome, smarter than me, more well-spoken than me. That's why you should check out the podcast. He's better than me.
Well, that's it for Russ. That's all he needed to hear.
That's all Russ needed. That was more me selling it to Russ. That was more me selling it to Russ.
Wow, dude. Like, I mean, why are we even doing this podcast? Let me go check this one out real fast. No, my question was going to be, and we'll get to one more question after this, because, I mean, we're gone an hour 16. I haven't even ate dinner yet. I'm 3 beers done, so we got to wrap this boy up. Curtis Samuel was going to be the question I had. Do you think he would be a fit? I mean, because you guys have like, and I say you guys talking directly to Zach because he's a Colts guy now. The Colts have like $53 million, I think, from SpotRack.com. And I don't know how great that number is. It's 53. I think that's at 185. If it comes in at 180, then obviously take off $5 million, whatever, give or take $5-10 million. But they got the money to get a guy like a Curtis Samuel. And I know not everybody loves him, but if we're talking deep threat, kind of a gadget player, Samuel kind of fits that role. If anybody's going to break out the bank for a receiver, I think it would be the Colts. They're going to let Hilton walk, and that could be your guy, right? Like, is Samuel the guy?
That makes sense on paper. I like it. But I will say, wink, wink, corner and defensive end are where they're going to spend a lot of that money. So definitely look at – thanks, Alexander. I appreciate that. Defensive end, they're going to go hard after. And Russ, I know you're gonna hate this, but Romeo Okwara, if he hits a free agency, if he hits free agency, bring him to Indy, give him whatever the heck he wants, and get yourselves a perennial 15, 16 sack guy, because he is a budding superstar. But anyway, dude, he is awesome. Romeo Okwara is awesome.
If Romeo Okwara goes to the Colts, you better look out your window every day for a silver Acura driving by, because I'm coming over and I'm beating it up.
No, we're watching all 22 of Romeo Okwara in a. If Okwara ends up in Indy, we are watching all 22 together every week of Romeo Okwara getting like 3 sacks every single game, because he's going to be a superstar with Buckner. But keep an eye on pass rushers for the Colts. Keep an eye on corners. Shaq Griffin is one to keep an eye on for sure. I know that one. And then they could.
Tyquan Lewis isn't that guy?
He'll play some defense. I think he'll actually replace at the strong side defensive end. We're looking at the other side.
But just say he's not the guy. He's not the guy.
No, he's not the guy. He had 5.5 sacks. He had a good year last year, but.
Hey, you want to know who DM'd me during draft season when he was getting drafted?
Was it Tyquan
Lewis?
Does everyone just call you a nerd throughout draft season? Is that what we're getting to here?
Hey, if you're not that guy, I'm gonna say you're not.
Wait,
that guy.
I'm the asshole grader, but all these players follow me, and I have good interactions with them, and they all just call you nerd, even though you're given more first round grades than me.
Okay, that's Teddy Gallagher with his mullet. Get out of here. Anyways, let's get to one more question. Dang it. Peter Pax, what are you doing, bro?
Let's get to one more question. I will nut some more. That's the final question.
We did get to a lot of good stuff here, and I will say, This was a lot of fun. There's a lot of Colts questions coming in, and I just don't. I mean, look, I could sit and I could sit and talk Colts all day. I really could. I could talk any team all day long and go over 1,000 scenarios, but I just don't want to do strictly all Colts because that's just not what we do. But you know what? Ron started us off. Let's have Ron Beck end it with a good question on a player. What happened to Charles Snowden from Virginia? Seemed like many had him highly rated last draft season. So that's probably the best question left out there. I mean, we already talked enough about mid-round. I mean, mid-round slot guys is there. There's some Colts questions. So I think that's probably the best question left for what we have. Or we could get into, okay, we can go this, or I'm gonna give it to you guys.
Wait, I want to answer Ron because Ron's awesome. Let's answer Ron.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So I will say with Snowden, I was super excited going into his film. Love his size. I mean, he's a bit of a tweener.
You like his length. You don't like his size.
Well, like his size as in, how tall he is in length. Yeah, yes. not like he's like 230, right? Like he's kind of tiny.
The dude's like, it maybe, dude. He might be like less weight than Jeremiah Joke, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah. I will say, though, I went into his 4-sack game because we had that on all 22. I was pumped to watch it. I was like, this guy got 4 sacks. I think it was against Duke or something. I think it was Duke in 2019. Yep. And I was like, yes, this is going to be fun to watch. And it was the most boring 4-sack game I've ever seen in my life. There was like
there
was like 3 on broken read options or something. And there was just
yes.
And I was like, man, like, don't get me wrong. The traits intrigue me. I think he's an intriguing guy. But I don't know. I don't really see much of a plan when he rushes the passer.
Injury stuff doesn't help his case at all. Because did he break his ankle or foot? Something like that. And at the Senior Bowl, I think he had a boot on the whole week. So that didn't help either. Of one of the very few events that you can actually have access to NFL personnel this year, he had issues.
Yeah, I think day 3, he's interesting because I do like that length. I like his height. I like some of the things he can do, but I don't see much of a plan. I don't think he can hold up on the edge every down. So, yeah, I don't know. I really wanted to like him. When I saw the 4-sack game and I saw his size, I was like, hell yeah, this is going to be fun. I was thinking like another Leonard Floyd type, but that would be a great thing for him if he was Leonard Floyd. I don't think he is.
He needs to add some weight to his frame. That's for sure. I mean, if he's going to be Leonard Floyd, I like Charles Snowden. I'll be honest. I think the pass rush is there, like the ability to rush the passer is there, but realistically, I just think he's not thick enough to play consistently where you need him to be. And I don't know where you play a guy that's 6'7", 6'6". Like he's listed at 6'7". Okay, he checks in at 6'5.5", 6'6". You're not playing him at will linebacker.
Yeah.
What are you playing him in? Like, okay, so you're gonna have him rush off the passer situationally. So, like you said, day 3 guy. CP brings up the injury. Like I'm very hesitant on him. I loved him, but I'm just hesitant. And I think if you take him, you're not getting double-digit sack production right away. And, I mean, I guess if you're getting into day 3 guy and if he gets you 3 or 4 sacks, all right, cool. You can live with it. But outside of that, that's a lot of the questions. We could get into offensive tackle rankings. I don't think we really need to be quite honest. I'm going to be honest. Because we've gone
that's a whole show worth.
Yeah, just draft one of the offensive tackles. Pretty much all of them are good. Jalen Mayfield has a ways to go to be good. But besides that, a lot of these guys are good. Like, this is a great tackle class. I love it.
Very deep. Probably the deepest. Would y'all agree? The deepest of the whole draft?
Yeah.
Position-wise?
Yep.
Yes.
Because then you're talking talking like James
maybe
Hudson,
receivers, but I feel like that's a cop-out answer.
Yep. Like James Hudson and Dante Smith are probably going to be like outside of a lot of top 10s. And they're like, I like both of them a lot to be developmental tackles.
Look, I'll tell you what, dude. You can take James Hudson, have him at offensive tackle if you want, but and I hate doing this. I hate taking tackles and moving them inside all the time. But like if you put that dude in a phone booth and put him in a guard spot, the dude's gonna kick somebody's ass 99% of the time. The dude is so aggressive. I love it. But yeah, I agree. No, a deep offensive tackle class, and we will have to do this again soon because it was just great dialogue, great draft stuff, tons of names, tons of positions, tons of stuff. I mean, all the time. CP, anything you're working on in the coming weeks for everybody?
Well, I can tell you an article I just edited, which we're talking about maybe some of our favorite players. Marvin Wilson, Kyle Trimble does some work over Banged Up Bills, and he does some injury reports for us. And Marvin Wilson's situation is really strange. He was a guy that I was high on and almost had a lock as a first-round guy coming into the year. Came back, maybe could have been a top 50 pick a year ago. Had some upper and lower body issues. And so his draft stock's all over the place right now. So that's coming tomorrow morning, being Saturday, I think around maybe 9 a.m. Eastern time. So that's something coming up real soon, maybe even right after somebody's listening to this.
Zach, what you got? Anything?
All I'll say before we get off, Peter, Tommy, Alexander, I think Ibn as well. Definitely check out my channel because you guys are all big Colts guys. I know you probably all subscribe to my channel as well. But stuff coming up. I have interviews posting next week with Divine Diablo, which is the coolest freaking name in the entire class, by the way. Who else do I got? I got Antoine Simmons, who I know Russ is a huge fan of. That's going to go up next week. Josh Immature Bebe is going to go up next week. Zach Enterboard Bebe. Zach Thomas out of App State, the quarterback. Had a fun convo with him. And Tough Borland is going to be a fun one that I'm going to record next week as well. And Tough Borland's cool. Might have to get one of you guys on there with me. Talk some film with him because I feel like he's going to know way more than me and I'm going to be overmatched by him. But I got a lot of fun film stuff coming. And honestly, I will say, Russ, Christian, because I want to have you guys on some of them. Wasserman's going to get back to me on March 1st, and they have a loaded class with like Najee Harris, Elijah Molden, like Amari Rogers. So we might get some really, really good ones, and we'll sit down with some really good prospects. So definitely subscribe to this channel because we're going to have some really good film interviews coming up soon.
No doubt about it. You guys, of course, can find both these studs. I cannot recommend them enough. I cannot do it. CP, let me just start here. Criminally underfollowed on Twitter at _Christian Page. It's ridiculous that nobody follows this guy. I mean, people follow him, but not enough people follow him. Look, the food tweets are amazing. The guy loves horror movies. He can rank every single one that was ever made. Interior offensive lineman by heart, by day trade, by everything else. He's amazing. He's a Excel sheet wizard. He is one of my closest friends in the draft business. He's awesome. CP Christian Page. You got to find him at _Christian Page. For Zach Hicks, at Zach Hicks 2. I just completely butchered that because I hate him.
Zach's overfollowed.
At Zach Hicks 2. You got Colt stuff. You got the interviews. You got the draft stuff. All the stuff he doesn't like rap music. That's fine. It's all good. He drinks Coronas. It's cool, but he's awesome. He's really well connected. And if you guys want to get in all that stuff, definitely find him as well on Twitter. Of course, you can find me at Russ NFL Draft. I just do my thing. Whatever. It is what it is. And you guys, of course, can find the Cover One Draft podcast again on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, wherever you get your stuff. And then, of course, find us on YouTube. Literally just search Cover One, and I promise you, like the top 100 things you're going to find is everything cover1.net, and it's tons of great stuff. So we got tons of cool stuff coming. I'm going to have Antoine Simmons on the Draft podcast on Tuesday night. That will probably drop Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, one of the two, to kind of follow up with Zach. And just going to be a tons of fun stuff. We're going to probably do some player prospect interviews. We're going to have articles coming, big boards, mock drafts, everything draft that you can think of. And, of course, Bill's stuff. You can find Greg Thompson, Aaron Quinn, Eric Turner, Anthony, the whole nine. Everything that you're looking for, we got you covered here over at Cover One. So we'll do this again soon. I promise. This was a lot of fun. Fellas, thanks for joining me, and thanks for answering the questions and being absolute studs tonight, beauties. So, guys, until next time, this is Cover One, the Draft Podcast.